right, everybody, greetings and welcome to another edition of Q&A, Social Security Disability Today. I want to again thank all of you for taking the time to share with me some really great questions. And today's questions, y'all made me work. So I may have to actually do two videos and do this in part segments. So I'm going to do the best I can to address each one of these because of not so much because of the number of questions, but due to the complexity of the questions that they've asked me. So let's go ahead and get cracking. First, I have a question from a young man asking me, are VA educational benefits counted as income for purposes of SSI? Let me stop for a second, give you a little background, and then let me get specifically into the question the gentleman asked. For those of you who may not be aware, Supplemental Security Income is a need-based program. In blunt terms, it's a welfare program. In other words, if you're receiving money from any other source, it may impact the amount of money you receive from SSI. When they're looking at other income, for purposes of our discussion, they're wanting to know, is this food or shelter, or is this something that can be used to purchase food or shelter? So that's why they assumed if you own a home, that's fine. You're allowed to have one home. If you have a car, you need a car in order to get food, that's fine. But if you have another home, that's more of a resource, but the idea is that you can sell that in order to get money. That's something that can be counted against you. Same thing if you had an extra car. Now, for those of you who are like, but the economy sucks and it's hard to buy houses right now, whatever. The fact that you have another house and you have the ability to sell that house is why they look at you in that way. Same thing with regards to other assets and so forth. The specific question that was asked with regards to education. Here's where education, in some instances, can, and in some instances, they can't. Because keep in mind, a lot of times students get either scholarships, grants, or loans. The reality is think of it like I just said. Can it be used to buy food or shelter? Let's look at loans first. For loans, you have to repay that money back. So that's not money you're really benefiting from because they give it to you. You got to give it right back. So they don't normally count that. Scholarships may be in the same category because, in essence, they're not giving the money to you, it's going directly to the university. Now, the question that was posed to me relates to a special program under what we call the Survivors and Dependents Educational Assistance Program. Now, let me throw this little point out here because a lot of times I get people who are like, why can't I find an attorney to help me with situations like this? Social Security has a very complex database that allows them to enter very key information with regards to whether or not something should be counted as an income or a resource. So for purposes of this, you have to ask yourself, if you receive this benefit, were you a child or surviving spouse of a veteran who died in the service? Or were you a child or a spouse of a living veteran who is 100% disabled due to a service-connected injury? If you don't fall under either one of those two, then that is going to probably be counted against you for purposes of income. So keep those things in the back of your mind. And this is one of the things that I have to remind people all the time, is that when Social Security is looking at their various programs, they have clearly defined categories by which to determine whether you are income-based or resource-based. If you don't meet it, you're kind of in a tough situation. And so I hope that answers your question for the person who was asking me, because the person who asked me was specifically concerned because they believed in their mind their loved one, they've got a VA disability pension, and the loved one passed away, and they were getting money as a result of it for their school. But here's the reality. If it doesn't fall under these neat categories, they're going to look at it as possible income. And that's why it gets a little weird when some people want to fight those things. So I hope that helps. All right. Let's go to another one. How can I modify my child support due to my disability? Woo! This comes up a lot where people sit here and I want to tell you this right out of the gate. Let's go ahead and jump into the child support thing. Every state is a little different in terms of what they look at for purposes of child support. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the modification of child support, you need to go to a family lawyer for that. Because in essence, every state is different in terms of what they determine a material change in circumstances. Social Security, their attitude is if you owe child support and you're going to have to come out of your Social Security disability to take care of a portion of it. That's just the way it gets down. I know that sometimes what happens is people start getting upset because they're like, well, I can't live. I'm not making any money. I'm not working. Unfortunately, child support is looking at the best interest of the child. So the fact that you may not be in the best position to be able to work anymore doesn't take away from the fact that you're getting a financial benefit, and your children should have a benefit for that as well. So, like I said, if you're looking to try to figure out how you can reduce your child support obligation as a result of you being on disability, you need to contact a family lawyer with regards to that. Now, here's another one. Someone asked the question, how can I survive without my doctors and medicines if child support is affecting my benefits? Now, here's where it gets even more trickier. Let's take the two and separate the two. Social Security and SSI has a medical component to it. Social Security Disability has what we call it, or the insurance benefit worker, DIB, has Medicare. SSI has Medicaid. Your money and your medical are two totally different things. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, Medicare doesn't cover everything. Medicaid takes too long, and I still got to get my medication. These are two totally different things. Because one of the unique advantages of Social Security, all these programs, is that invariably they have a medical component to them if you're doing it based on disability. So the fact that you're upset because you're only getting a small amount of money, as long as you're having the insurance coverage, it stinks that maybe you're used to getting $600-700 a month, but it's going down $150 because you got to pay child support, and Social Security is taking the money out of it. But you do have medical coverage, and let's kind of keep it also in its proper perspective. More than likely, when you applied, you didn't have anything. Now you have medical coverage. It may not be stellar like you want it to be, but it is coverage, considering that a lot of individuals don't have it at all. Okay, now what I'm going to do right here is the next 4 questions. I don't want to sit here and jam up in this next couple of minutes, so I'm actually going to do a part 2 to this segment. And if you want to follow up, I'll put the questions at the very bottom. Again, if you have more questions or comments, by all means, hit me up here and give me 2 and 2, and I'll come back and I'll do the second half of this.